Okay, so let's get into we have enough time to actually get into the IQ science. So first of all, Andrew, I'm not sure if you know this, but IQ is more highly correlated with race than it is with cousin marriage. So race, if you want to make this kind of IQ supremacist argument, then it will quickly become racial. And if you want to make that argument, just be very clear about it. Does Christianity, like your worldview, promote higher IQ races and everyone being at the mercy of those higher IQ races? You keep making a might makes right argument that, oh, Muslims are at the mercy of us high IQ Christians. Okay, well then there are races that are higher IQ than others. So are the higher IQ races practicing benevolence by not wiping out the lower IQ races? That seems to be what your standard, what your morality actually entails pretty directly. So that, please address the race issue.
I'll give you a chance to respond, Andrew, but I do want to be sure that this doesn't veer off topic too far.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really simple to address. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if that's a correlate. You know what else is a correlate? Fucking your first cousin. That's a correlate. That's a massive correlate for lowering IQ. It wouldn't matter if it was inherent, let's just say, for instance, that white people had higher IQs on average than the average Arab, right? Let's just say it for the sake of a hypothetical. It doesn't actually matter that much because we know one thing that's going to bring the IQ down: your first cousin. So the thing is, since that is the case, and it's objectively the case, right, I can still make the prescriptor that your societies would be a lot better off if you had 85 to 100 skilled laborers, 100 to 115 IQ professionals, at least in middle management, at least. And you said it yourself, right now you're terrified of nuclear war. We are terrified of nuclear war all around the nation, right, all around Muslim nations. You're probably terrified of Zionists who are right in your own backyard. I get all of that, Daniel. But your people group aren't smart enough to defend themselves against these people. Christian nations are. We're smart enough to defend ourselves from people groups who want to wipe us out, like yours, right? So that's what's important here. The reason why you need to at least have an IQ that's above, I prefer lower IQ, 70 to 85, the reason you need that is because you need to be able to defend and protect yourself. You can't have these strong families he's talking about if you can't defend these strong families he's talking about. You can't have these great values that he's talking about if you can't defend your own people group because you're at the technological mercy of another people group simply because you won't restrict a single behavior. That sort of rigidity has destroyed these once great lands. He's right. They did have beautiful art. Nice. They did have beautiful culture. They had beautiful everything. And then Islam came along and allowed them to inbreed themselves into literal stupidity. So again, how do we not build these better cultures? I've refuted every argument you've had. All you do is make my argument for me.
Go to Daniel, 90 seconds.
Yes. Is it on? Okay. So then also the other factor, you didn't really address the race issue and the logic of your argument that we have to promote races that have high IQ, or we have to accept that higher IQ races can dominate the lower IQ races. Guess what? You want to talk about Israelis dominating Palestinians because of low IQ? Guess what? Which race actually has a representative that controls every member of Congress, like a handler? Like an AIPAC handler. What race are the AIPAC handlers that are controlling Congress? What race are they? Are they white Christians, actually, Andrew? Because it seems like 300 million Christians can't take care of just maybe a handful, 10 million of that one particular race that has a death grip over your country. Maybe address that, Andrew, the elephant in the room, and then tell me about IQ. The other point that I want to make is that do I have to spell it out? Yes. Yeah, they're called Jews. They're called Jews, Andrew. It's called, and there are only 10 million of them. There are 10 million of them, but they seem
control
to have,
your whole region?
They seem to have a lot of control. Yeah, the thing about Israel is that they're able to dupe dumb Christians to support wars that are going to bankrupt America and cause America to really collapse so that they will have wars in the Middle East killing Muslim brown people because you Christians apparently, by your argument, Andrew, are too stupid to realize that they're being destroyed by this one particular group. Gee, that's really high. That's really brilliant, Andrew.
So actually, hang on, it's my turn.
I'm done. Okay.
Actually, it is really brilliant. Notice how Daniel is banking on the benevolence of Christians to save him from a higher IQ people group. Just like I said he would. Banking on the higher IQ benevolence of the higher IQ people group to save him from another higher IQ people group. Isn't that wild? It's almost like I predicted everything you'd say before you said it, because I did. This is very simple, right? His entire argument here that he's giving you right this second is, let's talk about how these higher IQ people groups are controlling you, the people I'm appealing to right now, to please stop them from dominating our entire region. 10 million against 1 billion. Dominated completely. And they have to appeal to somebody else to protect them because they don't have the requisite IQ or technology to protect themselves, and that's that. And that's why you have to have at least some sort of minimum IQ to have some sort of civilization which can at least contribute to your own nations and people groups' protection. How could that be a worse standard? He wants to make it about race. He knows it's a red herring, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your race has the potentiality for, like, let's say 100 IQ. Let's just say that that was the case. It was just stagnant at that for some reason. Then why would we want to reduce it below that? Why? That's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. So again, he makes my argument for me. Yes, he's appealing to the benevolency of Christians to save him and his people group. That should be the... I wish you guys were smart enough to get it. If that was the case, that you understood this, right, that you're appealing to a smarter people group to save you from another people group. That's why you guys have to get your IQs collectively higher. And you just said you prefer lower IQ societies.
Switch it to Daniel.
I didn't appeal to anyone's benevolence. I just pointed out how you're being used, how you're being treated like low IQ donkeys by a higher IQ race. That was my point. Like, I know you want to avoid acknowledging the point that I made very clearly, but the audience does. The audience understood what I was saying about that. So no, it's not about benevolence of Christians. Muslims don't need the benevolence of Christians to protect us. We've had a thriving civilization. And if Christians really want to win in this kind of argument, this kind of might makes right way, you're losing because of birth rates, simple as. You're losing because Muslims are not only having more children, more people convert into Islam as opposed to leave it. Whereas with Christianity, there's a massive swell of apostasy, people leaving Christianity. For what religion? Partly Islam, but the much bigger proportion, they're converting to atheism. They're leaving Christianity. Why is that? Why? It's partly because of a secular education. So this is, maybe you need to appeal to the benevolence of the atheists, the Jews, these other non-Christians, because your religion is bleeding out. I showed the chart. In terms of religious switching from Pew. Instead of grandstanding and trying to puff out your chest, address these real problems. Because there's not going to be a Christianity in 100 years if trends continue. And part of it is because of IQ. Ironically, part of it is because of IQ, because higher IQ is associated with higher atheism. So yeah, you're going to have people who will enjoy electric cars, maybe even flying cars and AI, but they're not going to believe in God.
90 seconds, we'll switch it over.
What's really interesting here is just pointing out that, once again, he's making the same exact appeal. The appeal, we're not making an appeal. We're not making an appeal. Islam has fantastic civilizations, as he's up here crying about how a nation of 10 million has enslaved all of them, according to him, right? How sophisticated can your civilization possibly be when 10 million people in the middle of a desert, right, are so technologically superior to the entirety of your civilization that even when your people groups have nuclear bombs, they don't feel threatened by it? This is a big problem. Again, this is not to talk about whether or not Jewish people are superior to Arab people, white people are superior to black people. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with one thing, which is the prompt. Which religion promotes a better society? Which religion produces better societies? And once again, I'm going to make this argument. It's pretty easy. If you think that people would have a preference, if you could ask them, which preference do you have? Do you have a preference to live in a society where 65% or more of the people are inbred, or do you prefer to live in a society where that's not the case? And you're a Christian, I think you would answer yes. And I think if you were an honest Muslim, you'd answer yes too. And why? Well, it's because you still want medicine for your kids. You still want to be able to drive on roads. You still want to be able to have basic infrastructure, skilled laborers, professionals, things like this. And it's not that there's not many Muslims who aren't. There are. But there's not enough to meet the demand because they produce really stupid societies. And it's because of this reason. So it's like he just keeps on begging me to answer his questions about degeneracy, which has nothing to do with the debate. We're talking about which society is better.
Yeah, degeneracy has to do with society, bro. Degeneracy has a lot to do with society. It's like pretty much your entire platform talking about degeneracy ruining society. So like the technology that the West has achieved, you're saying that, well, look at all these Muslims, the biomass is at the mercy of all these technologies, the fighter jets, the nuclear weapons, whatever. But that technological progress is victimizing all of us. We're all a victim. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, Hindu, we all are facing this massive transhumanist behemoth, this hegemony, and it's threatening to destroy the human race. Do you see the interview that Peter Thiel did with the New York Times? And he's talking about like the Antichrist, and he's being asked by the interviewer, do you think the human race continuing is a good thing? And then Peter Thiel, he's this billionaire, actually paused for a second, and it took him a while to answer. And when he finally did answer, he said that, well, you know, the human being in its current form, I don't know if that's something worth preserving. Because they're transhumanists. They want to see a future where human beings are bionic. You have genetic engineering to actually have tailor-made babies based on people's preferences. You have uploading the consciousness to the cloud with Neuralink, Elon Musk's Neuralink, all of these crazy technologies that are going to be imposed on us. Remember the whole thing, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Get in the pod, eat the bugs. Remember all of this agenda, especially after COVID, that they're rolling out. That's because of technology. That's because of high IQ people like Yuval Harari, this Jewish genius who is telling, hey, you don't need to own anything to be happy. We're just going to give you porn and we're going to give you drugs and you're going to live in the pod and that's going to be the future. That affects all of us. So it's not just Muslims who are the victims of this technological future. We are all victims of that dystopia.
Let us point out here that this is very important again, that everywhere Islam goes, regardless of the people group, the IQ goes down because of this. Let us also point out that that's not racial. That's every group. Every group that goes into anything to do with Islam, you end up with the IQ collectively lowering due to inbreeding. In order to oppose these very same technologies that he's proposing, transhumanism, things like that, you have to be able to make structured arguments, have reason. You have to be able to actually engage with these people. And if you can't do that, if it's the case that they have such a technocracy full of phaser guns, you got no chance anyway. You have to at least have a high enough IQ to protect your people group from the very people you are claiming right now have a technological edge, which is Star Trek compared to the Apollo 13. So if that's the case, he still hasn't told you how having a low IQ is actually going to demonstrably help their people group at all oppose these types of technologies when the very secularists they claim are just gaining an IQ, because us dumb Christians, we just can't help it. We become secularists the second we get too smart, right? That's a big problem for them again. They would still need to value IQ being raised just enough to protect their people group, even if it was the case that Christians became secularists. Even if that was the case. So always his argument goes back to low IQ equals benevolency of other people group, because you can't defend your people groups. You can't defend your peoples. You can't do it. We have an ocean between us, and only one of us is capable of attacking the other. And that's because of the massive distinction in technological prowess and organizational skills, which you're going to find with intelligence. And it's not a thing which is valued by Islam by his own admission. How could we not have better societies based on that? How?
Switch it over.
Again, the benevolence argument. The only reason that you, Andrew, are able to have a platform on YouTube is that the benevolence of a bunch of atheist, God-hating secularists. That's the only reason you have a platform. They could ban you tomorrow. They say, yeah, this guy is flying too close to the sun. He's a little bit too hateful, and they ban you. Your entire ministry, your entire outreach is based on the benevolence of these God-hating atheists, people like Elon Musk, people like Peter Thiel. This is a problem for everyone who believes in God, not just Muslims. And I want everyone to recognize this fact. If IQ is the end-all, be-all, the way to maximize IQ is transhumanism. It's to actually genetically engineer human beings to have higher IQ because IQ has a genetic basis, right? So the number one way to raise IQ is through genetic engineering, transhumanism. Tomorrow, if Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and the people who are controlling Christian countries and the globe really, if they say that, hey, we're going to eliminate Christianity because actually it leads to lower IQ and we have to adopt atheism, and they mandate that, and anyone who says that they believe in God or believe in Jesus is actually a radical terrorist who's spreading hate, and the Bible is full of hate and we have to ban this in order to reach our utopia, okay, that's going to happen at the hands of atheists. So Christians are also at the mercy of the same kind of IQ fetishists who want to transform the human race. Wake up, Andrew, wake up. Stop this stupid argument.
If I ask you one question, I'll yield my time to you, and you can ask me one. Are you willing to answer it? How is it, Daniel, and I'll yield my time to you, that even if it's true that right now YouTube and these oligarchs can deplatform me tomorrow, and that is true, that me having a lower IQ is going to be somehow help me in that situation? That's my question. How is it that having lower collective IQs would help us against transhumanists, Daniel?
So the answer to my question has been this whole time that there are other values. So yeah, I might be stupid. I might be lower IQ than someone else, but I enjoy my life in other ways. I find value in,
dude, just answer the question.
That is the answer to your question. To worshiping God, going and spending time with my family, having a wife who loves me, and I don't have to worry about her cheating on me or having this long history at college or whatever. Having children that actually respect me and who will take care of me in my old age.
How does a high IQ preclude you from that?
Because it leads to atheism.
No, so
it's
see what I mean?
correlated with atheism.
So here, let me show you the circle. Hang on, let me just show you the circular argument.
I'm making an independent argument.
Yeah,
for
I know,
why
but let me show you the circularity.
These values are important.
Can I show you the circularity here?
Okay,
So your
go ahead.
circularity of your argument is like this: having a lower IQ for me somehow means what? That I'm gonna suddenly have better ethics? I'm going to suddenly be a better person? I'm going to suddenly be more benevolent?
Yeah,
You
there's a
haven't.
correlation,
Hang on. You haven't demonstrated that that's the case. And by the way, I would argue, in fact, Christian ethics are so overwhelmingly good that secularists who have no ethical system borrow ours. And so the thing is like, look, ultimately, you haven't made an argument. The circularity of your argument is just this. Look, you need to have a lower IQ. Well, how does that help our people group defend itself if we do? Well, it doesn't, but there's other values more important. Okay, does a higher IQ preclude you from that? Answer, no. No. So that's the problem with the circularity, dude, that I'd actually like an answer to. And then, to be fair, because this wasn't a back and forth, I'm willing to answer yours directly, too.
Well, excuse me, sorry. Can I get water, James, actually? I can't really, my throat is pretty dry here. So there is like a negative correlation between IQ and religiosity. There is a negative correlation with IQ because as you get higher IQ, you can go read Jonathan Haidt, for example. You can read Joseph Heinrich, for example. And in their books, they point to how higher IQ is correlated with more liberalization, more secularization, more atheism, more freedom for all, which causes the kind of degeneracy that you and I speak out against. So there is actually a bad consequence to a population with higher IQ because you'll get more atheism. So that's one problem that you can point out. And I'm just saying that, look, let's not be IQ fetishists. Even if you think cousin marriage is degenerate, disgusting, oh, you're fine. But still, higher IQ does not correlate with better societies. It's leading to a problem that is unsolvable. Okay, this is a problem of higher and higher technologies that's going to cause us to live in a dystopia, a transhumanist dystopia. That is a problem for everyone. It's not like an own against the Muslims. It's an own against the human race. Peter Thiel, with his ugly, smug face, is laughing at us, at Christians, at Muslims. They're laughing because they have this demonic antichrist future that they're planning for us. And it is based on technology.
Yeah, but this doesn't really respond again to the argument. The question here, when you say that it is true that IQ can have correlates to atheism, But we were talking about societies reverting to the IQ mean, the mean. The mean IQ of the societies you produce, sir, are between 1 to 2 standard deviations lower than the average Christian nation. The mean. Now, there is no correlate that Daniel will be able to show you that having average IQs leads to secularism. It doesn't. It doesn't. Show me the correlate if that's the case. You can't. And the average IQs in these nations, which is just between 100 to 115 professionals, middle management, it doesn't preclude them at all, or doesn't force them to secularism at all. We're talking about the means of society. The mean IQ of 2 standard deviations lower in many cases precludes you from having any sort of civilization, really. It really does. Just basic infrastructure and things like this. So Daniel would need to show you how having a 100 IQ, an average IQ, is going to lead everybody to secularism because societies revert to the mean. It doesn't. It doesn't lead to secularism. It's a lie. You have to have these higher IQs, much higher. Otherwise demonstrate it. And if he can, even let's just say he could somehow, then his prescription is actually just that he wants to keep the world at 70 IQ. That's crazy. There is nothing which precludes Christian ethics from people groups that have average IQs or even above average IQs. And there's plenty of smart people, by the way, who are Christians. Now, to kind of hone in on that argument, just remember this. Secularists, these really high IQ secularists, they've never been able to find a system of ethics ever that's better than Christianity, which is why they adopt it. So just pointing that out.
We're going to give Daniel the last 90-second response. Then we're going to jump into the Q&A. The floor is yours, Daniel.
Yeah, so the 100 average IQ, that's in the modern period after secularization has taken place. There's a Flynn effect. If you look at the IQ in the world, the average was below 100. The average IQ globally was around 80 in Christian societies and Muslim societies. That was the global average. Secularization is through like secular education and the Flynn effect. This is what has increased IQ so that the average is now at 100. So again, like if you need 100 IQ average to be successful, then you're basically saying all of Christendom has been a failure. Like somehow they are able to have an empire, like a Christian empire, throughout history, despite being 2 standard deviations lower in IQ than current day averages. Your argument is really self-defeating in so many ways. And again, like I have to say that, I think this is a problem that is the problem of transhumanism is affecting the entire world, Muslims and Christians, and we really have to come up with a solution. We can't just keep praising this idea of technology and IQ because that plays into the hands of the people that want to destroy the human race. They want to literally usher in the Antichrist. So let's try to take the bigger picture in mind rather than trying to own each other with arguments that are self-defeating.
We're going to jump into the Q&A, folks.